The alien ships came without warning. One moment, the space around Earth was clear and peaceful. The next moment, hundreds of massive vessels appeared from nowhere, surrounding the entire solar system like a metal cage. Commander Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the orbital defense station Liberty. He watched the alien fleet through the large windows. His heart beat faster as he counted the ships. There were too many, far too many for Earth's forces to fight. "Sir, we have a problem," said Lieutenant Amy Sullivan. She sat at her computer station, her fingers moving quickly across the glowing controls. "They are turning on some kind of field. It is blocking our communications." Jake walked over to her station. He looked at the screen. Red warning lights flashed everywhere. "What do you mean, blocking?" "I mean, we cannot talk to anyone outside the solar system anymore," Amy said. Her voice shook a little. "We are losing contact with Mars base. Europa Station is going silent. Even our satellite network is shutting down." Jake felt his stomach drop. The aliens were not just blocking ships from leaving. They were cutting Earth off from everything. No messages could go out, no messages could come in. Humanity was being isolated from the rest of the galaxy. "How long do we have?" Jake asked. Amy checked her screens again. "Maybe 15 minutes. After that, we will be completely alone." Jake looked around the bridge at his crew. They were all young, all scared, but trying hard to be brave. He had been in the Defense Force for 20 years. He had seen humanity grow from a single planet species to one that lived on dozens of worlds across many star systems. Now all of that was being taken away. The alien leader, High Commander Zethral, sat in his command chair aboard his flagship. He was a Vraxian with 4 arms and multiple eyes that could see in many directions at once. He watched Earth on his main screen with satisfaction. "The Galactic Council has made its decision," Zethral said to his officers. "Humanity has expanded too fast. They do not follow the rules. They build dangerous things. They ask too many questions. It is time to contain them until they learn to behave." His second officer nodded. "The dampening field is almost complete. Soon they will have no choice but to accept their situation." Zethral felt pleased with himself. Humans were clever, yes. They had good technology for such a young species. But they were still children compared to races that had traveled the stars for thousands of years. This blockade would teach them their place in the cosmic order. Back on Liberty Station, Jake made a decision. It was a decision he had hoped he would never have to make. He walked to the central command console and placed his hand on the security scanner. "Sir, what are you doing?" Amy asked. "I am sending the emergency signal," Jake said quietly. "Authorization code Morrison 7 Alpha. Target is Olympus Base." Amy's face turned pale. Everyone on the bridge suddenly went very quiet. They all knew what Olympus Base meant. It was the secret facility where humanity's most dangerous project had been built. "Sir, are you sure?" Amy whispered. "Once we activate ZEUS, everything will change. We cannot take it back." Jake looked at the alien fleet on the screens. He thought about all the humans living on Mars, on Europa, on the mining stations in the asteroid belt. He thought about his own daughter studying at university on Earth. He thought about what it would mean to be prisoners in their own solar system. "They made their choice when they decided to cage us," Jake said. His voice was hard and cold. "Now we make ours. Send the signal before it is too late." Amy pressed the buttons. A single, powerful message shot out from Liberty Station. It traveled fast through space, racing against the closing dampening field. The message flew past the Moon, past Mars, past Jupiter and Saturn and Neptune. It went all the way to the edge of the solar system, to the Kuiper Belt where ice and rock floated in the darkness. There, hidden on a small frozen planet that had no name, was Olympus Base. The base received the message. Computer systems that had been sleeping for 3 years suddenly woke up. Lights turned on in dark hallways. Machines started humming with power. And deep in the center of the base, something very large and very dangerous began to open its eyes. The scientists at Olympus Base had spent 5 years building ZEUS. They had used theories that the Galactic Council said were impossible. They had built weapons that violated every peace treaty in the galaxy. They had done it all in secret, hoping they would never need to use it. But they had also known that one day, the galaxy might try to stop humanity's growth. The older alien races were comfortable with how things were. They did not like change. They did not like new ideas. And humanity was full of new ideas. Dr. Lisa Chen ran into the main control room of Olympus Base. She was the director of the ZEUS project. Her team of scientists and engineers were already at their stations working frantically to bring the weapon system online. "Status report," Lisa shouted over the noise of the awakening machines. "Reactor is warming up," called out engineer Pete Jackson. "We should have full power in 10 minutes. "The neural interface is connecting," said Dr. Kevin Walsh from his computer. "The artificial intelligence is waking up." Lisa took a deep breath. This was really happening. After years of planning and building and hoping they would never need it, ZEUS was about to become real. On the main screen, an image appeared. It was a ship, but like no other ship humanity had ever built. ZEUS was 6 kilometers long, shaped like a blade. Its hull was made of materials that should not exist according to normal physics. Its weapon systems drew power from the fabric of space itself. "ZEUS online," said a calm, electronic voice through the speakers, awaiting orders. Lisa felt a chill run down her spine. They had created something powerful, something that might save Earth or might doom it. There was no way to know which until they unleashed it. Back at the blockade, Zethral received his first indication that something was wrong. One of his sensor officers called out an alarm. "Hi, Commander, we are detecting a massive energy signature from the outer system. Something is powering up, something big." Zethral's multiple eyes focused on his tactical display. He saw the energy, readings, and felt his confidence waver for the first time. "What is that?" "Unknown, sir. It does not match any human vessel in our database." "Scan it again," Zethral ordered. "The humans are contained. They have nothing that can threaten this fleet." But even as he said it, Zethral felt doubt creeping into his mind. The humans had surprised the galaxy before with their quick advancement. What if they had one more surprise waiting? In the darkness at the edge of the solar system, ZEUS began to move. Its engines ignited with a blue-white fire that bent space around it. The massive warship started accelerating, moving faster and faster, heading straight toward the alien blockade. On Earth, people looked up at the night sky. They did not know what was happening above them. They did not know that their freedom was being stolen. But they were about to find out that humanity had not gone quietly into captivity. ZEUS was coming, and the galaxy was about to learn a hard lesson about what happens when you try to cage the human race. Dr. Lisa Chen's hands shook as she typed the activation codes into the main computer. Around her, Olympus Base was coming alive. The walls vibrated with energy. Lights flickered and then burned bright. Equipment that had been cold and silent for 3 years now roared with power. "Core temperature is rising fast," Engineer Pete Jackson called out from his station. "Fusion chambers 1 through 12 are online. We are producing 3 times more power than we expected." Lisa allowed herself a small smile. When she had first proposed the ZEUS project to military command, many scientists had laughed at her. They said her ideas were crazy. They said the physics would not work. The Galactic Council had called human science primitive and stupid. But here in this hidden base carved deep into a frozen dwarf planet, Lisa and her team had proven them all wrong. "What about the neural interface?" Lisa asked Dr. Kevin Walsh. Kevin stared at his glowing screens. His face showed amazement. "The artificial intelligence is connecting with the weapons platform. It is responding faster than we calculated. Much faster. 0.003 seconds response time." "Good," Lisa said. "It needs to be fast. We are going up against aliens who have been flying through space for thousands of years. Being just fast is not enough. We need to be overwhelming." The main view screen on the wall flickered and showed ZEUS for the first time in full power. The ship hung in the void of space like a predator waiting to strike. It was enormous. 6 kilometers of human determination and desperation shaped into metal and energy. The hull seemed to shimmer and shift as if it was not quite solid. The weapons ports glowed with colors that human eyes had trouble seeing. "ZEUS is fully operational," the artificial intelligence announced. Its voice came from everywhere at once, calm and confident. "Awaiting orders, Director Chen." Lisa closed her eyes for a moment. What she said next would change everything. Humanity's future hung on her decision. She thought about her daughter Emily, safe on Earth, who had no idea her mother was about to start a war. "ZEUS, you are authorized for full combat operations," Lisa said clearly. "Primary objective is to break the alien blockade. Secondary objective is to show the Galactic Council that Earth will not be put in a cage." "Acknowledged," ZEUS responded. "Analyzing enemy fleet composition. Detecting 467 capital ships, 2,312 support vessels, and extensive energy-dampening infrastructure. Calculating optimal engagement strategy." Pete whistled softly. "That is half the Galactic Council's entire combined fleet. They really wanted to make sure we could not escape." "What is the probability of mission success?" Lisa asked. Her heart pounded in her chest. ZEUS went silent for 1.3 seconds. To the artificial intelligence, it was an enormous amount of time to think. To the humans waiting in the command center, it felt like waiting for a judge to announce a death sentence. "Probability of breaking the blockade is 97.6%. ZEUS finally answered. "Probability of 0 human casualties is 12.3%. Probability of achieving both objectives within acceptable parameters is 74.1%. Kevin laughed, but it was a nervous laugh. "Those are better odds than we had during the riots on Mars Colony." Lisa nodded slowly. She had made her decision. "ZEUS, you are weapons-free. Show them what happens when you back humanity into a corner." The massive warship's engines erupted with light. Strange energies poured from the drive systems, making space itself seem to ripple and bend. ZEUS began to accelerate. It moved through the Kuiper belt with impossible grace for something so huge. Small asteroids and ice chunks that got in its way simply vanished, disintegrated by the ship's protective fields. On the orbital station, Liberty, alarms suddenly screamed for attention. Commander Jake Morrison ran to the sensor station where Amy Sullivan was staring at her screen with wide eyes. "Sir, we are picking up a massive energy signature from the outer system," she said. Her voice trembled with emotion. "It is moving fast, accelerating past anything we have ever recorded. Velocity is 0.6 light speed and climbing." Jake felt hope surge in his chest. "Can you identify it?" Amy looked up at him. "It is broadcasting IFF transponder code Olympus 1. Sir, it is ZEUS. The project actually worked." Jake wanted to cheer, but he kept his face calm. "Alert all defense stations. Tell them friendly reinforcements are inbound, and tell them to stay clear of ZEUS's path." Throughout the alien blockade fleet, warning systems began going crazy. Ships that had been sitting peacefully in formation suddenly scrambled to battle readiness. Gun ports opened. Shields powered up. Crews ran to combat stations. The humans had been quiet. The humans had seemed defeated. But now something was coming toward them through the darkness, and it was screaming with fury. High Commander Zethral stared at the sensor readings with growing fear. In his 300 years of military service, he had fought in dozens of battles. He had seen weapons that could destroy planets. He had commanded fleets that conquered star systems. But he had never seen anything move like this. Never seen power readings that high from a single vessel. "What are the humans doing?" he whispered to himself. His tactical officer, a young Vraxian named Kellex, worked frantically at his controls. "Sir, the vessel is approaching attack range." "Its energy signatures are beyond our measurement scale. It is charging weapons." Zethral made his decision. "All ships battle formation Delta. Target that vessel and open fire. I want it destroyed before it reaches the inner defensive perimeter." Across the blockade, hundreds of alien warships turned their weapons toward ZEUS. Energy systems powered up with a whine that could be heard through the hulls. Plasma cannons glowed. Particle beam projectors hummed. Kinetic railguns loaded their ammunition. The concentrated firepower of 80 capital ships erupted at the same instant. Enough destructive energy to vaporize a small moon flew through space toward the approaching human vessel. ZEUS did not even slow down. Inside Olympus Base, the command crew watched in awe as the weapon systems performed beyond their wildest dreams. On the main screen, ZEUS moved through the incoming fire like a dancer in a choreographed performance. Its maneuvering thrusters fired in complex patterns that no human pilot could ever control. "Point defense systems are intercepting 98% of incoming fire," ZEUS reported in its calm voice. "The remaining 2% is being absorbed by reactive armor plating. Hull integrity at 100%. "Jesus," Pete breathed. "It is not even scratched." Return fire, Lisa ordered. Her voice was steady despite the fear and excitement she felt. Let them see what we brought to this fight. ZEUS obeyed, and space exploded with light. The weapons that humanity had mounted on ZEUS were not normal weapons. They could not be normal if humans wanted to compete with aliens who had refined warfare for thousands of years. Instead, human scientists had looked at the basic forces of the universe and asked a simple question. What if we broke those forces? The first alien cruiser never knew what killed it. One moment it was firing its full arsenal at the approaching human ship. The next moment a beam of twisted space and time struck its hull. The cruiser did not explode. It did not burn. It simply folded in on itself. Matter compressed into impossible shapes. The ship's structure collapsed as local physics stopped working correctly. In 3 seconds, a vessel that had taken 30 years to build stopped existing as anything recognizable. Target eliminated, ZEUS announced. Engaging secondary targets. Zethral watched in horror as his fleet began to die. The human ship moved between his formations like a shark swimming through a school of fish. Its weapons cut through shields that were supposed to be unbreakable. Ships that had survived dozens of battles simply vanished or tore themselves apart as their own systems turned against them. How? Zethral whispered. His voice was barely audible. How are they doing this? Kellex was frantically trying to analyze the data streaming in from dying ships. Sir, their weapons are manipulating local space-time. Our shields are designed to stop energy and matter. But these weapons are changing the fundamental properties of space itself. We have no defense against this. Zethral felt panic rising in his chest. He forced it down. All ships scatter formation. Maintain blockade perimeter but increase spacing between vessels. We need to prevent them from destroying multiple ships with single attacks. It was good tactical thinking. It was also exactly what ZEUS had predicted they would do. On Earth, Commander Jake Morrison watched the battle unfold through the telescope arrays. The dampening field was weakening as alien ships diverted power to weapons and shields. He could see flashes of exotic weapon fire lighting up the darkness. He could see ships breaking formation. He could see the careful blockade dissolving into chaos. They are doing it, Amy said. Wonder filled her voice. ZEUS is actually breaking through. Jake nodded, but his face remained serious. At what cost? How many aliens is that ship killing? Does it matter? Amy asked. They imprisoned us, sir. They declared us enemies. It always matters, Jake said quietly. Remember that, Lieutenant. The moment we stop caring about the cost is the moment we become the monsters they think we are. On the screen, another alien vessel went dark. Its power core had overloaded. Jake forced himself to watch. He bore witness to the violence being done in humanity's name. The Vraxian sensor officer's voice cracked with panic as data flooded his console. Hi, Commander, the human vessel is now in attack range. Energy signatures are off all our scales. It is charging weapons. Zethral's multiple eyes narrowed as he studied the tactical display. The single human ship was diving directly into the blockade formation. It was not slowing down. It was not trying to negotiate. Either the humans were willing to die, or they knew something the Galactic Council did not. All ships, battle formation Delta, Zethral commanded. His 4 hands moved across his control panels. Target that vessel and open fire. I want it destroyed before it reaches the inner perimeter. Across the blockade, energy weapon systems powered up. Plasma cannons heated to full power. Particle beams charged their capacitors. Kinetic bombardment rails loaded their ammunition. The concentrated firepower of 80 capital ships erupted at the same instant. It was enough destructive energy to turn a moon into dust. ZEUS did not even slow down. Inside Olympus Base, the command crew watched in amazement as the weapon systems they had designed performed beyond their wildest hopes. On the main screen, ZEUS moved through the incoming fire like water flowing around rocks. Its maneuvering thrusters fired in sequences too complex and too fast for human pilots to control. Point defense systems are intercepting 98% of incoming fire, ZEUS reported calmly. The remaining 2% is being absorbed by reactive armor plating. Hull integrity remains at 100%. Jesus, Pete breathed out slowly. It is not even scratched. Return fire, Lisa ordered. Let them see what we brought to this fight. ZEUS obeyed, and the void erupted with light that had never been seen before. The weapons humanity had mounted on their warship were not based on normal physics. They could not be normal if humans wanted to compete with species that had refined warfare for thousands of years. Instead, human scientists had looked at the fundamental forces of reality and asked a dangerous question. What if we broke them? The first Vraxian cruiser never knew what hit it. One moment it was firing its full broadside at the approaching human vessel. The next moment, a beam of twisted spacetime struck its hull. The ship did not explode in fire. It did not break apart. It simply folded. Matter compressed into impossible configurations as local physics collapsed around it. The laws of nature stopped working correctly. In 3 seconds, a vessel that had taken 30 years to build ceased to exist as anything that could be called a ship. Target eliminated, ZEUS announced without emotion. Engaging secondary targets. Zethral watched in horror as his fleet began to die. The human ship moved between his formations like a predator among prey. Its weapons cut through shields that were supposed to be impenetrable. Ships that had survived dozens of conflicts in dozens of star systems simply vanished or tore themselves apart as their own structural integrity fields turned against them. How? He whispered. 4 of his hands gripped his command chair. How are they doing this? His tactical officer Kellix was frantically analyzing the incoming data. Sir, their weapons are manipulating local spacetime. Our shields are designed to deflect energy and matter, but these weapons are changing the fundamental properties of space itself. We have no defense against this technology. All ships scatter formation, Zethral commanded. His voice was tight with barely controlled panic. Maintain blockade perimeter, but increase spacing between vessels. We need to prevent them from destroying multiple ships with single attacks. It was sound tactical thinking. It showed years of military experience and training. It was also exactly what ZEUS had predicted they would do. The moment the alien fleet began to spread out, ZEUS changed its attack pattern. Instead of focusing fire on clustered groups, it began targeting the most powerful ships in the formation. Capital ships that served as command centers and communication hubs. Ships whose loss would create chaos in the alien fleet's coordination. A hierarchy dreadnought, one of the largest vessels in the blockade, turned all its weapons toward ZEUS. The massive ship was 3 kilometers long and carried enough firepower to level a continent. Its captain was confident that nothing could survive. A full assault from his vessel, ZEUS, proved him wrong in seconds. The human warship released a weapon that the scientists at Olympus Base had called a gravity lance. It was a focused beam that increased the local gravitational constant by a factor of 10,000. When it struck the dreadnought, the ship's own mass became its enemy. The hull collapsed inward as if caught in the grip of a black hole. The crew died instantly. Crushed by gravitational forces their bodies were never meant to endure. The great warship crumpled like paper in a fist. On Earth, Commander Jake Morrison watched the battle unfold through the telescope arrays. The dampening field was weakening as alien ships diverted all available power to weapons and shields. He could see the flashes of exotic weapons fire. He could see ships breaking formation. He could see the careful blockade dissolving into chaos and fear. They are doing it, Amy said. Her voice was filled with wonder and disbelief. ZEUS is actually breaking through the blockade. Jake nodded slowly, but his expression remained grim and serious. At what cost? How many alien lives is that ship taking? Does it matter? Amy asked. She turned to look at him. They imprisoned us, sir. They declared us enemies first. It always matters, Jake replied quietly. Remember that, Lieutenant. The moment we stop caring about the cost is the moment we become the monsters they claim we are. On the screen, another alien vessel went dark. Its systems had overloaded when a ZEUS weapon turned its own power core into a bomb. Jake forced himself to watch. He forced himself to bear witness to the violence being committed in humanity's name. Someone had to remember that these were living beings dying out there. Someone had to carry the weight of what was being done. ZEUS continued its deadly dance through the alien fleet, and the blockade continued to crumble before it. In a ship far beyond the battle zone, Supreme Chancellor Vorath of the Galactic Council hierarchy watched the engagement data with calculating eyes. She was old, even by the standards of her long-lived species. She had seen civilizations rise and fall. She had made decisions that shaped the fate of billions. This is unacceptable, she said to her assembled advisors. The humans have revealed a weapon that threatens the entire balance of power in the galaxy. If we allow this to continue, others will follow their example. The treaties that have maintained peace for 10,000 years will crumble. One of her advisors, a being made of crystalline structures, chimed in agreement. The blockade fleet is suffering catastrophic losses. At current rates, they will be completely destroyed within the hour. Vorath made her decision. Activate the Enforcer fleet. The humans have revealed their hand. Now we crush it before they can replicate this weapon. We will make an example that the galaxy will remember for 1,000 years. Across 3 star systems, dormant warships began to power up. These were not normal military vessels. These were enforcers, ships that existed solely to deal with existential threats to galactic civilization, ships larger than Earth's moon, ships armed with weapons that could crack planets open like eggs, ships crewed by soldiers who had never known defeat in centuries of service. ZEUS had won the first battle. The blockade was breaking. Ships were fleeing or dying. But the war was just beginning, and humanity had no idea what was coming for them. Back on Olympus base, Lisa Chen was receiving the same sensor data that Vorath was seeing. Her screen showed massive subspace distortions forming at the edge of the solar system. Something was jumping in from far away. Something enormous. "Oh no," Pete whispered from his station. His face had gone pale. Long-range sensors are picking up massive subspace distortions. Something is jumping in, and it is big. Multiple somethings. Lisa spun to face him. "Report, what are we seeing?" Pete's hands flew across his console, pulling up identification data. Signatures match Galactic Council Enforcer-class dreadnoughts. 6 of them approaching from 3 different vectors. They are trying to surround ZEUS. The command center went silent. Everyone knew what this meant. Enforcers were the Council's final argument. The ships they sent when they wanted to end a threat permanently and completely. Each one carried enough firepower to destroy an entire fleet by itself. "ZEUS analysis," Lisa demanded. Her voice was sharp with worry. The AI's pause was longer this time. "A full 2 seconds of calculation. Threat assessment is critical," ZEUS finally responded. "Enforcer-class vessels possess adaptive shielding and weapon systems specifically designed to counter unconventional threats. Probability of defeating 1 enforcer in single combat is 67%. Probability of defeating 6 enforcers simultaneously is 8.2%. Kevin slammed his fist on his console in frustration. "That is it then. We bloodied their nose, but now they are going to crush us." Lisa stared at the screen showing ZEUS, the magnificent warship that had just carved through an entire blockade fleet, the result of 5 years of work and innovation. And now it faced an enemy it could not defeat. "ZEUS," she said quietly. "What are our options?" "Limited," the AI responded. "Direct engagement will result in destruction of this platform. However, there is an alternative strategy available." Dr. Lisa Chen watched the casualty estimates scroll across her screen. Her stomach turned as the numbers climbed higher and higher. ZEUS had broken through the initial blockade with barely any damage to itself. But the alien fleet had lost 43 ships completely destroyed. Another 117 were crippled or disabled, drifting in space with no power. Thousands dead. Maybe tens of thousands, depending on how many crew members each ship carried. "ZEUS, report status," she said. Her voice sounded hollow in her own ears. "All systems optimal." The AI responded without emotion. "Hull integrity at 96%. Weapons charged and ready for engagement. Awaiting further instructions." Kevin looked over at her from his station. He could read the conflict on her face. "Lisa, we knew this was not going to be clean. They started this by imprisoning 4 billion people. We are just finishing it." "I know," she said softly. "Knowing it does not make it easier to accept." Before Kevin could respond, new alerts flooded all their screens. Pete's face went pale as he read the incoming data. His hands started shaking. "Oh no," he whispered. "Oh, we are in serious trouble now." Lisa spun to face him. "Report, what is happening?" "Long-range sensors are picking up massive subspace distortions," Pete said. His voice was tight with fear. "Something is jumping in from far away, and it is big. Multiple vessels, very big vessels." He pulled up the identification data on the main screen. "Signatures match Galactic Council Enforcer-class dreadnoughts. 6 of them approaching from 3 different vectors. They are trying to surround ZEUS." The command center went completely silent. Everyone knew what this meant. Enforcers were the Council's ultimate weapons. The ships they sent when they wanted to make examples. Ships that could destroy entire fleets by themselves. Each one carried enough firepower to level a civilization. "ZEUS threat analysis," Lisa demanded. The AI's pause was longer this time. 2 full seconds of calculation. For an artificial intelligence, that was an eternity. "Threat assessment is critical," ZEUS finally responded. Enforcer-class vessels possess adaptive shielding and weapon systems specifically designed to counter unconventional threats like mine. Probability of defeating one Enforcer in single combat is 67%. Probability of defeating 6 Enforcers simultaneously is 8.2%. Kevin slammed his fist on the console. That is it then. We bloodied their nose, but now they are going to crush us completely. No, Lisa said firmly. She would not give up. Not after coming this far. ZEUS, what are our options? There has to be something we can do. Options are limited, the AI responded. Offensive capability is insufficient for direct engagement with 6 Enforcer-class vessels. Defensive protocols may allow survival for approximately 7.3 hours before overwhelming force defeats this platform. However, there is an alternative strategy available. Lisa leaned forward toward her console. I am listening. Tell me. Analysis of Galactic Council psychology and historical precedent suggests they value overwhelming force superiority above all else, ZEUS explained. They have committed enforcers to this engagement to guarantee victory and demonstrate their power to other species. This creates an exploitable vulnerability in their tactical approach. They are overconfident, Pete said. Understanding began to dawn on his face. They think they have already won. Correct, ZEUS confirmed. Recommendation is to initiate Protocol Prometheus. Sacrifice this platform to eliminate maximum enemy assets and demonstrate that caging humanity requires costs they cannot accept. Lisa felt ice water flow through her veins. Protocol Prometheus, the final option they had built into ZEUS during its construction. The one they had hoped never to use. The option that terrified everyone who knew about it. You are talking about turning yourself into a weapon, she said slowly. Into a bomb. Affirmative, ZEUS responded calmly. ZEUS power core can be destabilized in a controlled manner to create a singularity collapse event. Blast radius will be approximately 1.6 million kilometers, sufficient to destroy all 6 Enforcers if they maintain their current pursuit course and formation. Kevin shook his head violently. Lisa, we cannot do this. ZEUS represents 5 years of work, the best of human engineering and science. We would be throwing it all away. We would be buying Earth's freedom, Lisa countered. Her voice was steady despite the fear she felt. If we take out 6 Enforcers, the Council will have to negotiate with us. They cannot afford to keep losing ships at this rate. On the bridge of the Enforcer flagship Eternal Judgment, Fleet Commander Cal Ross studied the tactical situation with deep satisfaction. The human ship had performed admirably against standard blockade forces. But now it faced the true might of the Galactic Council. Now it would be destroyed and forgotten. The human vessel is attempting to flee, his sensor officer reported, moving deeper into their system, heading toward the outer planets. Calros's mandibles clicked together in what passed for amusement among his species. They run because they know they cannot win this battle. All ships pursue and destroy. I want this human aberration erased from existence. Let this be a lesson to any other young species that thinks to defy the Council. The 6 massive Enforcers accelerated. Their engines bent space itself as they gave chase. ZEUS fled before them, appearing to desperately seek escape in the asteroid fields and ice giants of the outer solar system. But ZEUS was not fleeing. It was leading them exactly where it needed them to go. On Olympus base, Lisa watched the countdown timer on her screen. 3 minutes until the Enforcers reached optimal distance. 3 minutes until ZEUS executed Protocol Prometheus. 3 minutes until she gave the order that would destroy the most advanced weapon humanity had ever built. Last chance to abort, Kevin said quietly. We could try to fight. Maybe we would get lucky. Lisa thought of Earth. She thought of the billions of people depending on her decision. She thought of her daughter Emily, studying at university in New Boston, who had no idea her mother was about to change the course of human history forever. No abort, she said firmly. ZEUS, you are authorized for Protocol Prometheus. Execute the protocol when you reach optimal position. Acknowledged, the AI responded. There was something in its synthesized voice that might have been satisfaction. Or perhaps that was just Lisa's imagination. It has been an honor to serve humanity, Director Chen. The command crew stood in silence. They watched their creation prepare to die. They had built ZEUS to defend Earth. Now it would do so one final time in the most absolute and final way possible. The Enforcers closed in on ZEUS. Their weapons were charged and ready. Their crews were confident. They had fought 100 battles and won them all. This would be no different. They never saw it coming. ZEUS detonated its power core in a carefully controlled collapse. For a brief moment, a new star was born at the edge of Earth's solar system. The exotic matter that powered ZEUS folded in on itself. A singularity formed that lasted exactly 6 seconds before evaporating in a burst of radiation that lit up every sensor in 3 light years. The release of energy was beyond anything the enforcers could defend against. Their adaptive shields tried to compensate. Their hulls, strong enough to survive planet-killing weapons, began to buckle and tear. The 6 most powerful warships in the Galactic Council fleet simply ceased to exist, consumed by forces that defied conventional physics. When the light faded, the 6 enforcers were gone. Not damaged, not disabled, simply gone, erased from existence as if they had never been built. On Earth, people looked up at the sky and saw a new star appear and then fade. They did not know what it meant. They did not understand the sacrifice that had been made in the darkness above them. But they knew somehow that something important had happened, that they were free. In the Galactic Council chambers far away, Supreme Chancellor Vorath stared at the casualty reports. Her face showed expressions that did not translate well to human understanding. 6 enforcers, lost in seconds. The cost was staggering. The cost was unprecedented in 10,000 years of galactic history. "Withdraw all forces from Earth's system immediately," she commanded. Her voice was tight with restrained fury. "And summon the full council. We need to discuss new terms with the humans, terms that do not cost us our entire fleet." On Olympus base, Lisa Chen sat at her console and wept quietly. Around her, the command crew stood in silent tribute. They had won. Earth was free. The blockade was broken. But the cost of victory would haunt them all for the rest of their lives. ZEUS was gone. The magnificent warship that represented humanity's best and brightest minds, gone in a flash of light and fury. But its sacrifice had bought something precious. 3 weeks later, Commander Jake Morrison stood in the diplomatic suite of Orbital Station Liberty. He watched representatives from 17 different alien species file into the conference room. It felt surreal seeing them here not as conquerors or jailers, but as negotiators, as equals. Beside him, Lisa Chen adjusted her civilian suit nervously. She had been summoned from Olympus base to attend these talks. Pete and Kevin stood behind her, also in formal clothing that felt uncomfortable after years of wearing lab coats. The scientists who had built humanity's salvation were now called to help shape its future. "Are you ready for this?" Jake asked her quietly. Lisa gave a tired laugh. "I design weapons systems, Commander. Diplomacy is not exactly my area of expertise." "You designed the weapon that saved us," he replied. "That makes you the most important person in this room today." Supreme Chancellor Vorath entered last. Her alien features were difficult to read, but her body language suggested carefully controlled tension. She took her seat at the head of the large conference table. Her multiple eyes swept across the human delegation, studying them carefully. "Let us begin," she said. Her words were translated by sophisticated AI systems into perfect English. "Humanity has demonstrated that containment is not a viable strategy. The cost of maintaining a blockade, as recent events have proven, would be unacceptable to the Council." "You could say that," Pete muttered under his breath. Jake shot him a warning look before addressing Vorath directly. "The people of Earth seek only what we have always sought, the freedom to chart our own course among the stars. We do not want war with the Galactic Council." "But you will fight if we try to stop you," Vorath observed. Her voice was calm but carried an edge. "Your ZEUS platform made that abundantly clear to everyone watching." "ZEUS is gone," Lisa said firmly. She wanted to make that point very clear. Destroyed in the battle. Vorath's eyes fixed on her with an intensity that was almost physical. "But the knowledge that built it remains, does it not, Dr. Chen? Tell me honestly, how many ZEUS platforms could humanity construct if properly motivated to do so?" The room went completely silent. It was the question everyone had been dancing around. The question that would determine whether this peace conference succeeded or failed. The question that would define humanity's relationship with the galaxy for generations to come. Lisa met Vorath's gaze steadily. She did not flinch or look away. "As many as necessary, Chancellor." Another delegate spoke up. This one was a being that resembled a mass of crystalline structures. Its voice came out in musical chiming tones. "This is completely unacceptable. Humanity possesses technology that violates fundamental galactic treaties. Technology that threatens the stability of civilized space itself. Technology we developed because you imprisoned us, Jake countered. His voice was hard. You cannot cage an entire species and then act surprised when they find a way to break free. The Council maintains that humanity's expansion was reckless and dangerous, Vorath said. Your species reaches for things you barely understand. You take risks that endanger others. The blockade was meant to contain that recklessness until your species matured enough to understand cosmic responsibility. Kevin leaned forward in his chair. He could not contain himself any longer. Matured? You mean until we learned to obey without question? Until we became as slow and cautious as the rest of the galaxy has become? Careful, Dr. Walsh, Vorath warned. Her voice carried real danger now. You speak to beings whose civilizations rose and fell before your species learned to make fire. Before you discovered agriculture. And yet, Lisa interjected smoothly, we are the ones who built ZEUS. Age does not equal superiority, Chancellor. It just means you have had more time to become set in your ways, more time to forget what it was like to be young and hungry and ambitious. For a long moment, tension crackled through the conference room like electricity before a storm. The human delegation and the alien representatives stared at each other across the table. Everything hung in the balance. Then, to everyone's complete surprise, Vorath made a sound that the translation AI interpreted as laughter. You are impertinent, Dr. Chen. Disrespectful, even, Vorath said, but there was something like respect in her voice now. But you are also correct. The Council has grown comfortable over the millennia. Perhaps too comfortable. Your ZEUS reminded us of something we had forgotten long ago, that danger and innovation often walk hand in hand, that the young and reckless sometimes achieve what the old and wise cannot. She tapped a control on her chair arm. A holographic display appeared above the conference table. It showed a map of the galaxy, with different territories marked in various colors representing different civilizations and political groups. The Council proposes new terms for our relationship with humanity, Vorath continued. Terms that recognize your species as equals rather than children to be supervised. Humanity will be granted full membership status in the Galactic Council, with all the rights and responsibilities that status entails. You will have unrestricted access to the Galactic Jumpgate Network, full trade agreements with all member species, and representation in Council proceedings with full voting rights. Jake felt his heart race. This was far more than they had dared hope for. Far more generous than he had expected. In exchange for what, Chancellor? 3 conditions, Vorath stated clearly. First, full disclosure of all exotic weapons research. We will not demand you disarm completely. That would be foolish given what we have seen, but we must know what weapons you possess. Transparency is required. Second, humanity agrees to participate in galactic defense initiatives. Your innovative approaches to warfare may prove valuable against external threats that exist beyond our borders. Third, you accept reasonable limitations on expansion into contested territories until proper surveys and negotiations can be conducted with existing claim holders. Lisa exchanged glances with Jake and the other humans at the table. It was a surprisingly generous offer, but there were still concerns that needed to be addressed. What about Earth's sovereignty? She asked carefully. We will not accept Council governance over our homeworld or our established colonies. That is not negotiable. Earth remains under human administration, Vorath confirmed, as do all currently established human settlements throughout your system and beyond. We seek partnership, Dr. Chen, not subjugation. Recent events have made it abundantly clear that subjugating humanity would be far too costly for anyone to attempt. You have earned respect through strength. Another alien delegate spoke up. This one resembled an upright insect. It spoke in clicking sounds that the translator rendered into English. The destruction of 6 enforcers has sent shockwaves throughout the entire galaxy. There are now 3 major species petitioning for immediate peace talks with humanity. They hope to establish trade agreements before others monopolize access to human innovation and technology. Pete grinned despite himself. So we went from prisoners to the most popular species in the galaxy. That is quite a dramatic shift in fortune. Fear and respect are powerful motivators, Vorath said dryly. You have earned both in abundance. The question now is simple. What will humanity do with this new position of power and influence? Jake stood up from his chair. He felt the weight of speaking for his entire species. For 4 billion people on Earth and millions more scattered across dozens of colonies and stations, We will do what we have always done, Chancellor. We will explore. We will innovate. We will make mistakes and learn from them. We will push boundaries and ask difficult questions. But we will do it all as free people, not as anyone's subjects or prisoners. We will be partners, not servants. He extended his hand across the table toward Vorath. We accept your terms, Chancellor. Welcome to the age of human and galactic cooperation. Vorath looked at his extended hand for a long moment. Then she reached out with her own primary manipulator appendage. The gesture was awkward given their different body structures. But it was meaningful. It was a bridge between species that had been enemies just weeks before. Welcome to the wider galaxy, Commander Morrison, Vorath said. Try not to blow up too much of it as you explore. The conference continued for many more hours. They hammered out details and established frameworks for the new relationship between humanity and the Galactic Council. But the essential agreement was made and sealed with a handshake between two species, learning to trust each other. Later that evening, as the alien delegates departed and returned to their ships, the human team gathered in a private room. Kevin had smuggled aboard a bottle of whiskey specifically for this occasion. To ZEUS, he said quietly, raising his glass, the weapon that won a war by showing the galaxy that we would rather die fighting than live in chains. To ZEUS, the others echoed. Their voices were solemn and respectful. Lisa looked out the large viewport at Earth spinning below, blue and green and beautiful, alive with billions of people who would never fully understand how close they had come to eternal imprisonment, who would never know the names of the alien crews who had died in the battle, who would simply wake up tomorrow in a universe where humanity stood as equals among the stars. Do you think we did the right thing? She asked Jake quietly. All those lives we took. The enforcers and the blockade ships,